Tourists in America, they come for the landmarks, the food, the freedom. And sometimes they leave behind stories so dumb, locals are still shaking their heads. From jaw-dropping mistakes to straight-up bizarre behavior, today we're counting 33 of the dumbest things tourists did in America. And trust me, by number 17, you'll wonder how these people even made it past the airport. Buckle up, because this ride is part comedy, part chaos, and 100% real. Number 1. In Orlando, a tourist spent nearly an hour standing under the giant Universal Studios globe waiting for it to open like a ride. He even asked a worker, "When does the ball start spinning with people inside?" The employee had to explain, "It's just a decoration." The tourist shook his head and said, "That's a missed opportunity." Locals still laugh about who wanted to ride the logo. Number 2. In Florida, a tourist at an alligator park leaned over the railing and yelled, "Here, gator, gator!" like he was calling a pet dog. The gator actually lunged forward, snapping its jaws, and the guy fell back screaming while locals roared with laughter. The park guide shook his head and said, "Sir, this isn't SeaWorld. They don't do tricks." Number 3. Imagine you're at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park in the dark, lava erupting like fireworks, and you think, this is the perfect close-up moment. So one tourist edged just a bit too close to a cliff on the Byron Ledge Trail without a flashlight. Suddenly, he's slipping and plunges off. By some miracle, a tree breaks his fall around 30 feet down and saves his life from what could have been a fatal 100-foot drop. He walked away with just minor facial injuries. Locals shook. Nature still hot. Viewer definitely nailed it with the suspense. Number 4. In Alaska, a group of tourists got off a cruise ship and immediately asked the dock workers, "So where do you plug in the northern lights? Do they only turn them on at night shows?" The workers played along, saying, "Yep, switch flips at 9 p.m. sharp." The tourists came back later, disappointed it was cloudy, and told everyone the lights must be out of order.
Number 5. Picture yourself strolling through your favorite U.S. national park, soaking in the views, when you suddenly see someone stepping off the boardwalk right onto the fragile thermal ground, just for a cool photo. That actually happened. One tourist ignored warning signs, hopped off the safe path near a hot spring, and stood on the broken shell of the thermal crust for a photo op. Those mats are delicate and deadly hot underneath, not solid ground. One break, and you're burned. Or worse. Locals see it as Darwin in action. Don't let curiosity cost you your skin. Number 6. Imagine walking into a Target store, filling your cart, then trying to pull off a nearly $1,000 shoplifting job like it's nothing. That's exactly what unfolded when an Indian tourist got caught at the scene after allegedly shoplifting nearly $1,000's worth of items. One moment, they were browsing. The next, handcuffs. Locals face-palmed. The tourist's vacation ended. Fast. And the U.S. Embassy even issued a warning reminding travelers, theft isn't just rude, it can cancel your visa forever. Number 7. Ever watched someone perform a full-on striptease at the airport? At Boston's Logan Airport, one tourist did just that, at a gate in front of everyone. He started dancing, posing, ended up fully naked, even mooning stunned passengers before cops tackled him. Boarding was halted, the mood was surreal, and let's just say his vacation didn't start as planned. Talk about taking making a scene to a new level. Locals are still trying to unsee it. Number 8. Picture this. The shiny futuristic sphere in Las Vegas. A crowd marvels at its towering digital facade, when suddenly a daredevil tourist decides to climb. That's right, one thrill seeker scaled the entire 366-foot-tall sphere, recording the climb on his GoPro like some real-life Spider-Man. He didn't just stop halfway, he made it all the way to the top. The stunt landed him arrest, felony charges for damaging property worth over $5,000, plus a gross misdemeanor for conspiracy. Locals shook, viewers glued to the screen. Number 9. In Chicago, a tourist stood in front of the Willis Tower, Sears Tower, looked up at its 110 stories and asked, "Is this where Batman lives?" A local couldn't resist replying, "Yeah, and he charges rent for rooftop views." The tourist actually wrote it down in their notes like it was an official fact. People nearby had to cover their mouths to hide the laughter. Number 10. A tourist dropped a bag of Cheetos inside Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico, breaking the no snacks rule and triggered an ecological chain reaction. The junk food invited microbes, insects, and fungi, creating a whole new food web. Rangers spent 20 minutes cleaning up the mold spread. Nature doesn't snack responsibly, folks. Number 11. Imagine a German tourist stepping off a plane, half asleep, thinking he's in San Francisco, only to discover he's actually in Bangor, Maine. He spent 4 whole days sightseeing there, wondering why there were no Golden Gate bridges or cable cars in sight. Turns out the flight hadn't ended in California at all. The locals couldn't resist turning this mix-up into a media sensation. He was treated like a celebrity, invited to ribbon cuttings, given honorary gifts, and even celebrated at a McDonald's. Proof that sometimes the best stories start with the wrong destination. Number 12. A tourist wandered into a U.S. national park, bypassing all the do not enter signs, and began poking at fragile geothermal features, only to be called out by stunned bystanders. "They need to be arrested," one onlooker said. Number 13. Imagine you're casually visiting Yellowstone National Park when you see someone kneeling at the edge of a hot spring, dipping their fingers into boiling water, like it's a kid testing the pool. That actually happened. A tourist leaned over a protected thermal feature and stuck their hand right in, groaning, "Oh my God, it's actually hot." Bystanders were stunned, rangers were furious, and everyone watching mentally hit rewind. Yes, hot springs can hit nearly 200 degrees, and touching them can cause serious burns or worse. Science called. It wants a word. Number 14. Ever think it's okay to kick a sniffer dog at the airport? Neither did locals until one tourist went for it. In Washington, D.C.'s Dulles Airport, an Egyptian visitor lashed out at Freddie, a 5-year-old CBP beagle, kicking him so hard the pup flew through the air. The result? A hefty fine for vet bills, immediate deportation, and headline-making chaos. Locals were outraged, canine defenders everywhere howled, and that tourist's vacation ended on a truly brutal note. Number 15. In a Florida beach town, a visitor spent 20 minutes staring at their map, right in front of a "You Are Here" sign that clearly had a big red arrow pointing to the same spot. Locals walking by pointed, giggled, and someone eventually politely tapped the board and said, "That's you." Right there. The tourist turned beet red, shrugged, and the whole beach cracked up. Number 16. At a mall in Atlanta, a tourist mistook a statue for a real person and loudly asked it for directions. He waited politely for an answer until a group of teens burst into laughter and revealed the statue was, you guessed it, a bronze art piece. Cue embarrassed grin and scrambling after the teens. Number 17. In a small Nevada town, a tourist got schooled on how not to cross a street. A local spotted them jaywalking, right under the nose of a flashing pedestrian. Crossing. The tourist paused, looked around confused, and then waited for traffic to move before crossing, as if the pedestrian signal was purely decorative. The bystanders couldn't stop chuckling as the tourist finally tiptoed across. Lesson: even stoplights are characters here. Number 18. Picture a tourist wandering through a quiet New England town, map in hand, absolutely convinced they're at an iconic Revolutionary War site. Instead, they've strolled right into a Sears parking lot. No cannons, no history plaques, just rows of washing machines and lawnmowers. A local couldn't resist telling them, "You're not late for a reenactment. You're 3 blocks from Route 1. We still laugh because, hey, when history calls, sometimes you just show up at the wrong address. Number 19. In Times Square, one tourist was so amazed by the flashing billboards that he tried to tip a streetlight, thinking it was part of a Broadway show. He kept patting it like a waiter until a real street performer stepped in and said, "Buddy, that's city property." Locals laughed so hard the poor guy just waved and walked off like nothing happened. Number 20. On Miami Beach, a group of tourists asked a lifeguard if the ocean closed at night. Dead serious. The lifeguard blinked, then said, "Only if the moon forgets to clock in." The whole beach burst out laughing. And the tourists? They nodded and said, "Good to know," as if it was a totally normal answer. Number 21. In Chicago, a tourist stared up at the famous bean sculpture for so long, mesmerized by their reflection, that they walked face first into it. A loud clonk echoed across Millennium Park, and the crowd gasped, then laughed when the tourist shook their head and gave a bow like it was all part of the show. Turns out, art really does hit back. Number 22. In Las Vegas, a tourist stood in front of the famous "Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas" sign, holding his camera high, waiting and waiting. After 15 minutes, someone finally asked what he was doing. He sighed and said, "I'm waiting for the sign to light up like Times Square." Locals nearly doubled over, because the sign doesn't flash, it just exists. Number 23. At Disney World in Florida, one tourist confidently told their kids that Cinderella's castle was the real White House. The kids bought it, tourists around them chuckled, and one cast member finally stepped in to whisper, "Sir, the president doesn't live in a theme park." The man just nodded, unbothered, and said, "Well, he should." Number 24. In San Francisco, a tourist asked locals where they could buy tickets to ride the Golden Gate Bridge. They thought it worked like an amusement park ride, with lines, booths, and stubs. When a bus driver overheard, he laughed so hard he nearly missed his stop. Spoiler alert, you can cross it for free, but no ticket takers are waiting. Number 25. In Washington, D.C., a tourist marched right up to the Lincoln Memorial, stared up at the giant statue, and loudly asked, "So, when does he come out and talk?" A group of students nearby burst into laughter, and one tour guide had to gently explain, "Sir, he's been sitting quietly since 1922. Number 26. On Route 66, a tourist spotted one of those old Route 66 road signs and asked a gas station worker, "So where's the actual Route 1 through 65? The guy nearly spit out his coffee laughing before explaining that it's just a name, not a giant set list of highways. Number 27. In New Orleans, a tourist tried to pay for beignets at Café du Monde with Monopoly money, saying, "Well, it's themed, right?" The cashier raised an eyebrow, locals in line cracked up, and the tourist sheepishly swapped in real cash. Lesson: powdered sugar may be magical, but the bank still wants dollars. Number 31. In Los Angeles, a tourist rented a bike to ride along Venice Beach and spotted a guy dressed up as Spider-Man doing street tricks. They gasped, ran up, and asked, "Excuse me, where's the real Avengers headquarters?" The performer stayed in character and pointed dramatically toward the ocean. The tourist actually pedaled off like they were about to meet Iron Man. Locals on the boardwalk were doubled over watching it unfold, half impressed at the actor's commitment, half amazed at the tourist's total belief. Number 32. Over in Texas, a tourist driving through Dallas kept asking locals for directions to the Cowboy Village. After a few confused looks, someone realized he meant Walmart. He'd seen people in cowboy hats walking out with boots and gear and thought it was some Wild West reenactment spot. When the truth came out, the tourist laughed at himself, but locals still retell that one, calling it the Walmart Rodeo. Number 33. And finally, the big one. In New York City, a tourist at Central Park pulled out a paddle and inflatable raft, planning to float down the river to see the Statue of Liberty. A nearby jogger stopped in shock before bursting out laughing. "Buddy, this pond doesn't even connect to the Hudson!" The tourist stared at the tiny stretch of water, confused before sheepishly deflating the raft while a whole crowd chuckled. It's the perfect ending, because only in America do you try to sail to Lady Liberty from a duck pond. So there you have it. dumbest, weirdest, and flat-out funniest things tourists have done in America. From calling hot dogs organic to trying to raft across Central Park, these stories prove one thing: travel might broaden your horizons, but it doesn't always sharpen your common sense. If you've ever witnessed a tourist doing something this ridiculous, or maybe you were the tourist, don't worry, we won't judge. Drop your story in the comments. I want to hear the absolute craziest ones out there. And hey, before you go mistaking a statue for a tour guide or trying to buy tickets to walk across the Golden Gate Bridge, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you never miss another list of real-life fails. Because trust me, the dumb doesn't stop here.